Hey everyone, John Doyle from OptixEQ. We're going to talk about Kentucky Derby. It's almost here, another month away, 2024. And we're going to show you how to use the plot. We're going to go through some past history trends going from back when we started doing the plot for the Kentucky Derby in 2008, show you how to kind of use it. It's easier to use actually, because you only have one plot. That's the standard plot because none of the horses have gone the distance. So it's usually difficult to race the handicap. You have 20 horses and so forth, but I think we're going to help you make it a lot easier if you use OptixPLOT. And I'm going to show you some of the past results and the profiles of horses that win the Kentucky Derby or finish in the money. Okay, so we're going to start with horses that win quadrant one. They dominate the win position. So horses that you see up in that upper left-hand corner, this is, you see numbers next. What do those numbers mean? That's the year. So when you see, 2018 would be number 18. So that's what you want to focus in on. And you can see that basically this quadrant one, that's where most of the winners come from. You have some ones that come out of here. I would say they're more anomalies than anything else. 2009, Mind That Bird, long shot, just kind of a crazy kind of race. 2017, that was Always Dreaming again. He was such a wild horse, but he benefited from a bias, sat the rail and so forth. But he was a big square. 2019 was Country House. That's when Maximum Security was disqualified. So Maximum Security was more of a quadrant one horse. And then Rich Strike recently when that race collapsed in 2022. So for the most part, other than these anomalies, you can see the quadrant one has dominated. So when you're looking for the winner, even if it's a square or circle, and people who don't know anything what a square circle mean, new to optics, it just means the relatively closing ability of a horse. So a square means the horse, finishes faster than a circle. So, but quadrant one, the point you want to take out of here is quadrant one dominates the Kentucky Derby on the win end. Okay. Okay, let's go to the next slide. The next slide is, and this is where you want to look when, especially when you're playing exotics. Squares really have a dominant advantage over circles. So again, this is late pace. When you talk about horses that are going a mile and a quarter for the first time, this is really important. Late pace is the key. So upgraded squares. Squares are more than 2.5 times more likely to finish in the money than circles. Okay. And this is just kind of a heat map of the past, 15, 16 years that we've been doing OptixPLOT with the Derby. And you see they come from all quadrants, basically, mostly clustered in quadrants, 1, 4 looks good, 3. I mean, they're all over the place. But again, it's key when you're looking at this to upgrade squares over circles, especially for those underneath positions. Okay. So that's the second point. Third point is that Q3 and Q4 circles, they don't have a chance, basically. I mean, we had that one horse in 2009, Mind That Bird, who won. And I think most of us would say that was just kind of an outlier, that race. So when you're doing this, especially when you're trying to do something and you're trying to bet horses underneath, if they're a circle and they're in quadrant 3 and 4, they're essentially a toss. Okay. The last point is that you don't want to ignore Q4 squares. Again, squares are horses that are closing late, and they actually, from the number of starters and the number of times they finish second in the exacta, is the highest percentage of all shapes and sizes and quadrants. So Q4 squares are the best underneath in the exacta spot. And sometimes you get a really pricey horse. So one of the things you want to look for when the plot comes out, look for that quadrant 4, look for squares. Maybe there's some other handicapping angle you like on a horse, and if he's a square in quadrant 4, could be a nice exacta. In fact, if we go back to when I was talking about Country House, he would have finished second. He would have been another big price horse that finished second in the Kentucky Derby, if not for the disqualification of Maximum Security. Okay, so here we go. In review, all Q1 runners, both circles and squares, are the most viable win contenders. And this is just based on our history. It's, like I said, the plot's been pretty predictive in the 16 years we've been doing it on the Kentucky Derby. And again, you're only going to see one plot because these horses have never gone the distance. So typically we have a standard and surface distance plot. You're only going to see one plot for the Kentucky Derby. The horses just don't have experience going a mile and a quarter yet. Q3 and Q4 circles are just bad in all, top 4 places. They're just a toss, essentially. Late pace is the key, so we want to upgrade those squares again. We saw that heat map with all the squares and all the different quadrants. And then Q4 squares are the best and underneath exacta spot with the highest second place finish percentage. So that's kind of it in a nutshell when you get, from a plot perspective. We have a lot of other great content. We have our notes and everything going into Kentucky Derby. It's going to be a big day. So check us out on OptixEQ.com. We'll have a special Kentucky Derby special up there for you, and have some fun. This is a great day of racing, and it should be a competitive race. It's kind of just falling that way, and we'll see how people plot out. So that's it. John Doe from OptixEQ. Check us out also on Twitter @OptixEQ, and thanks for listening.